Okay, so what we are going to do over here is something we are going to talk about, let's say multi-region RDS or database inside AWS. Okay, multi-region or cross-region, it's the same thing only. The concept over here is that you have your data center. So let's take this example. Okay, just have a look at this photo. You have your region 1, you have your region 2, and you have two databases which are actually reading the data from one another. This is one of the way of doing it. Another way, let's have a look at this. I have one of the region, let's say one of the region is over here. So I have a EC2 instance which is actually hitting this instance, and if at all there is a problem with this instance, it can go and hit this instance. So basically what we are going to do is we are going to create a basic infrastructure of a database. Now the database that we are going to choose will be MongoDB, because that is the database that is used a lot in today's scenario. So what I'll do is I'll go and create a database inside North Virginia. And important thing, it has to be private. It should not have the public access. So I will go to North Virginia, create a MongoDB inside North Virginia, inside a private subnet. It means it only works on the private IP. Then I'm going to go and create a EC2 instance inside Mumbai region this time. And from Mumbai region, I will try to connect to the database of North Virginia. This thing in your actual real-time scenario, you can say that you are trying to contact the instance over the private IP. Some people also call this concept as NATing. You will use something as peering. So we are going to work on multiple things. The primary ones are VPC, wherein we'll work on network peering and security of the instances. So for this, I will actually need to work on two instances. So again, if you missed, we are going to create one instance inside Mumbai and one instance inside North Virginia. Mumbai will also have MongoDB. North Virginia will also have MongoDB. Now, if I try to connect to my Mumbai instance to North Virginia, that should happen. More important, that should happen over the private IPs. Okay. So this is what we are going to do. So first thing first, let's go and start by creating our instances both in Mumbai as well as North Virginia. So for Mumbai, let's start EC2. This also, we are not going to use a AMI which already has everything, because we want to start everything from the very scratch. So we are going to do the complete thing here. So Ubuntu 20 machine, and let's take a comparatively bigger machine. Let's say a T3A medium. Mumbai one is perfectly fine. It should have the public IP also, and that we want. So this is the instance inside Mumbai that is connected. So let's call it as the, so the scenario is we'll call this one as the backend machine. Okay. So just the backend machine. Same thing inside North Virginia. Let's start to do. Please don't be confused, because at this point of time, I'll be jumping across multiple things.
Yeah, hi, I'm Keith. I'm sorry.
So this here, and let's start.
Hi, Ankit.
Now, generally, a common thing is that people are confused in how to install the databases and how to work on NoSQL databases. If you have this problem, no worries, it's pretty straightforward. And these amazing companies are actually creating the instances and the databases in such a way that it's absolutely easy to work on them. So just remember, on the left is my Mumbai instance and on right is my North Virginia. Okay, so first thing first, let's go and run an update over here. And because I have to install MongoDB inside my Ubuntu instance, let's just go and search for that. Go for the first documentation itself, where it says docs.mongodb.com. We'll go there and we'll see how easy it is to install. So for that, just keep on going down, and you have to install it on Ubuntu, right? So command number 1, it says just copy this and paste it as it is. Step 1, done. Step 2, which version am I on? Ubuntu 20. Multiple ways of knowing it, by the way. If you don't remember your version, remember to give the proper one, because this thing will change. 16 is Anil, 18 is Bionic, and 20 is known as focal. That's the code word. So if you forget this, let's say I just gave you an instance, how do you know that what version of Ubuntu it is on? Pretty straightforward actually. Let's have a look. If you have access to your AWS console, just select that particular instance over here. And if you go down and you will have a look at AMI, just have a look at AMI name. Looking at that itself, you understand that, okay, it is a Ubuntu 20 machine, and which is working on AMD 64 or x86 architecture. So Ubuntu Focal 20, Ubuntu 20. So this is when you have access to the AWS console. If at all you don't, no worries. You can always go and type lsp_release-a. That is also going to tell you that, okay, your Ubuntu version is 20 and the code name is focal. So let's go back to our MongoDB and just copy this. So this, and done. Okay. So I took focal Ubuntu 20. Okay. Again, Ubuntu 20 and focal. Fine. The third one, this here. Done. Fourth, this here. And done. That's it. You have successfully installed MongoDB inside your machine, or Mongo database inside your machine. That's pretty much it. Okay, so this is how easy it is. Now, you can say that you might have to remember these commands, but it's pretty straightforward actually. So command number 1 here, if it doesn't say okay, if it gives you an error, it is also telling you in that case you will have to run this command and this command. Because in our case it didn't error out, so we just ran 1, we just ran 2, we just ran 3, and just ran 4, and that should be pretty much it. Now, how to check if it is installed or not? Just type the name of the command and it tells you that this actually failed. So at least it is not saying the command not found. For example, I type Cassandra, it says command not found. Okay, or I type SQL_sh, it says command not found. So at least for Mongo, it is not saying that command not found. It is saying that, see, I am unable to connect to it. Now, by the way, why is it unable to connect to it? The answer is because you have just installed a database server inside the machine. You haven't started it as of now. So if you go back to your documentation, it will tell you also that the first command that you should do is this. Let's copy it here, this, and if everything is good, let's type Mongo, and this time it at least doesn't give me the error, rather it says that MongoDB is installed and you can start working on that. Now, working on MongoDB is a different thing. It's a different method itself. So those are the DBAs or the programmers, those who work on MongoDB, not part of our curriculum at the moment. So let's just exit it. But I do know that MongoDB is installed. Another way to check, just type htop somewhere over here. You will see that the MongoDB process will start to load up. You see this Mongod and Mongod. Mongod actually is nothing but Mongo daemon. That is a process that actually is running MongoDB. Inside Docker, we are going to see a part of it, which is the same, that we call it as Docker daemon. But for now, let's just say that, okay, Mongo is installed inside my machine at the moment. So this is what we wanted to do inside our machine 1. So inside this, it is done. Now let's go and do the same thing inside my North Virginia region. For that, launch instance. And let's take Ubuntu 20. And again, T3A small. This and subnet anywhere I can put. But right now I am just disabling the public IP. Okay. It means that no one can connect with this instance. Also, let me create a new key pair here. Just give me a minute. Let me see if I have this key pair with me. AWS North Virginia. Okay, the other that I have, AWS Session North Virginia. Okay, this one I have, so I'll just use this one. So let's put it here and let's call this as the Mongo server. Okay, so let's make a connection with that instance now. So let's just type a stop over here so that it doesn't time out. And let's start. This one, now there's a problem by the way with this, okay? We'll see it very shortly. Let's make a connection with it here, and I go and try this and I hit enter, and you will see nothing is going to happen. Now, the reason why nothing is going to happen is I am on the internet. If I have to connect with someone over the internet, I need the public IP for that. Have a look over here. I was connecting with this instance on this IP 65.0.116.157. Just have a look over here. What did I type? 65.0.116.157, which means if at all I have to make a connection with any machine over the cloud, for sure I need the public IP. This instance has a public IP. Mumbai has a public IP. North Virginia instance does not have a public IP. For that reason, I cannot make a connection with it. Now, it's not I cannot make a connection. I can certainly go create elastic IP for now. This here, and it is in US East 1, fair enough. Allocate. So I do get IP address here. Actions, associate. Select your instance. If you want, you can also select your private IP and associate. Now, if you see, this IP was 18.207.91.193, right? The same IP will appear over here also. Refresh it once. What does it say? 18.207.91.193. It came. Now, if I have to make a connection with it, pretty straightforward. This time you see this change. It is 18.207. Let's go back. It is no more 172 because it's no more the private IP. Okay, so let's copy this here, and yes. And first thing first, sudo apt-get apt-get update, and then the same old story of installing MongoDB from the beginning. So what do we do for that? Here, done, 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 the fourth one. It will start installing, and at this time I do remember that I will have to go and start my MongoDB server. We should remember that now. So this, and the same thing. Now if I go and type Mongo, it is going to give me something, and MongoDB is indeed installed inside North Virginia also. So till now I have just gone, created an instance inside Mumbai, created an instance inside North Virginia, and I do have MongoDB across both of them. Okay, now let's go and start to work on MongoDB by going to a specific IP. So any questions still here if you have?
No.
No, so I just want to confirm.
Hello, your voice is not audible. It is now.
Yeah, so I just want to confirm, like, so while creating the instance itself, we select the region, right?
Correct.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
So, okay, if nothing else, then let's proceed. Now, by the way, let's say I decide to test it out, that whether from my Mumbai region, I am able to connect to this particular machine or not. For that, let's just go and type Mongo. If I do Mongo, you see, it will connect to this IP. What IP? This local IP. I don't want to connect to the local IP. Rather, I want to connect to our external IP. So let's give a host, and first of all, let's try this host itself. So let's say 172.31.21.165. And I say, and it gives me an error. Let's try it one more time with a different IP. Let's say 127.0.0.1. And you see it connected to it. Now, this thing will rush. So pay attention. This IP when I am giving, no, it is not connecting even though it is the public IP. This IP when I am giving, it is connecting. 127.0.0.1 means that machine itself. This also should mean this machine itself. However, just keep in your mind for the next 2 minutes that this was working and this was not working. Okay, we will come back to this. Let's go back and make a connection with this machine, isn't it? So for that, okay, let's go to this machine and here, this, and what was the IP of the machine actually? 18.207.91.193, right? And give this. And you will see it will again not connect to this. By the way, why is it not connecting? Multiple reasons. First reason is this machine is in North Virginia. MongoDB is trying to connect on this port. What port? 27017. So this machine should also allow that particular port number. Which port number? 27017. Let's go and fix that first. There will be multiple things in this. Okay, only one thing doing won't work. So step by step we are doing. So at any point of time, if you are stuck, ideally do step by step and it will work. Okay, so let's say TCP, and right now I'm giving anywhere. I do understand that this is a very unsafe method to do it. We will fix it. But first, let's ensure the connection is happening at least. So if this is done, North Virginia is actually allowing 27017, isn't it? So over here, let's go and give this. And I see that again it fails. Okay, now still it fails, by the way. Why is this failing? The reason for that is, let's go over here itself and try connecting this one to this IP itself. So this machine is trying to connect to itself only. And this machine is itself unable to connect to itself in the first place. However, if you remember, 127.0.0.1 works, isn't it? Which means
Hello.
Hello, Ankit. Ankit, unable to hear you.
you should be now.
Yes,
Okay.
I know.
Fine. So thank you. So let's get started. So if I go and try to do this, it fails. However, if I go and try to do this, it obviously is going to pass, isn't it? So I do understand that there is some configuration issue by which this IP works, 127.0.0.1 works and the rest doesn't. Okay. By the way, whenever if you log in and you see something like this, no, please always go and do a sudo apt-get update. There might be many security patches which have not been done. So you should ideally do that. Okay, fine. So let's go back. And I do understand that somewhere down the line, though, some configuration changes are there, which is allowing 127.0.0.1 and doesn't allow the other IPs. So for that, let's go and see what is the file. So how MongoDB works actually is, just give me. Okay. Okay, so let's start. So first of all, let's have a look. So cd and let's go to var lib and MongoDB. Okay, so if you see over here, you have multiple files which are over here. You have mongo.log file, this file, this file. So what actually happens is, if at all you have to go and change the configuration of a file, generally it happens with some location which is there inside. It should ideally be inside Ubuntu, or it can be inside any place. Now if you don't remember the place, that is fine, you can always run a grep command, and by that way you can do, or else let's go and find it. So do etc and so nano and so you see this thing over here, 127.0.0.1. This is the reason why it is only connecting with one IP. And what is that IP? 127.0.0.1. If at all in future also you want your machine to connect with any IP, always go and make a connection of that machine over the private IP. Let's have a look at it. Private IP happens to be this, isn't it? So let's just go and replace it and give this and y done. If it is done, let's go and have a look at it. Okay, this one, right? You do again, it is going to fail. The reason is you have made a change in the configuration file. You haven't restarted the server. Now this location is for MongoDB. Important thing is every file or every database will have its own configuration file. Someone will have it in this location or this format. Someone will have a YAML format. Jenkins has a XML format. Cassandra has a YAML format. MongoDB also has a YAML format. So everyone has their own. The only thing is, remember that some settings have to be changed. A good way to do this is, whenever you are working on the settings, please go and take a backup of it also. Fine. For now, let's go and restart it. Sudo service mongod and let's say restart. Now if this is done and you try to make a connection with that machine, you will see it works. But from here to it might work. Let's have a look from here. You see, magically it is also working from your Mumbai region also. Okay, so now the database is working, or this machine is able to connect to this machine in any way. Okay, this machine again is connecting with this machine. I believe we are good till here. Yes, let's proceed. Now remember the possible errors that we saw. First was the location. Everyone has their own location. Then etc mongo.conf. It does not work on 127.0.0.1. Rather, it works on this IP. So for that, I went and changed this to this IP and it magically started to work. Now, if we are good till here, let's leave it like this. This instance, ideally, how to secure a machine ever? The best way to secure the machine is to not give it the public IP itself. How did I give this machine the public IP? By going inside Elastic IP, isn't it? So let's go and disassociate the Elastic IP first of all. Once that is done, let's go and release it. Now you go and do whatever you want. You see, after some time, it will time out. And the same thing, if you try to connect to this, it is going to fail, obviously. Because even though this machine is working at this moment, this machine does not have a public IP. And because it does not have a public IP, no one in this world can make a connection with this machine. This is the most secure machine in this world as of now, because it doesn't have any IP address only. Yes, Masood.
So in this case, like when we, as you said, like no, when we go over the internet,
Yes,
we should have a public IP, right?
always. Yes,
So all the times when we do the connection, the IP keeps changing, right? Public
correct.
IP.
But that
So
is why,
in
Masood, here I took elastic IP. Elastic IP will never change. It will
okay, okay,
always be the same only. It is like
okay,
your static IP.
okay, cool,
Okay.
cool.
And by
Fine.
the way, the private IP also does not change.
Yes, okay.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So this machine now you see over here, it is gone. I try to make a connection with it. Even I cannot make a connection with that machine because this public IP doesn't exist in the first place. What will I do? But still, database is running somewhere inside this machine. If someone can do the magic, where important, if someone can make a connection with this machine over the private IP, then this machine is a database. You can make a connection with that. The concept here is making a connection over the private IP. This is very important. Let's go and do the same old story again, wherein final thing will be we should be able to connect with this machine over this IP. Okay, that is what we have to do. This is what we told in the beginning: data center in North Virginia, data center in Mumbai. See, on the public IP, both are working. One use case is solved. Second is now private IP in North Virginia and the public IP in Mumbai. That we have to do. Okay, now instead of directly doing, I'm thinking of even complicating it even more. Let's remove this instance itself. Let's not use it. Now what I will do is, yes, Masood.
Yes, Ankit. So in this scenario, the
Mhm.
old one,
Mhm.
so we have done like we created two EC2 instances.
Right,
Inside that we installed this thing like DB, right? MongoDB.
correct,
And okay, we installed MongoDB in both the
correct,
instances,
correct,
and we connected see one instance to another instance, right?
correct, correct.
Okay. So what about like are we interchanging the database, MongoDB database, because
That
both
can be done.
has
That can be done. That is the next step. Masood. That is
okay
something known as a cluster. Right now, I'm just
cluster.
saying my backend is a public facing IP and my database is at a private place. No one can access it. That is what people say.
Okay.
No, how do you secure my data? See, database, how do I secure? I have put it inside a different region altogether, North Virginia, and no one can access it except
Okay.
my one magical backend machine that is in Mumbai.
Okay. Okay. What I understand is for now
Hmm.
we have see instance one and instance two connecting to only one instance database, right?
Correct, correct. Only one machine can,
Oh,
in this entire world, only one machine can connect with that database. Yes.
okay. And one database is idle, right?
Correct. That is idle. See, that I don't need also in the first place. That I have to use, no, because if I have to run Mongo command as client, I need to install it. That is why I am doing it. That is not doing
Oh,
anything. In real
okay.
time,
Thanks.
my Java program or Node.js program will connect to it. So it doesn't need MongoDB installed there.
Okay. Understood.
Okay.
Thanks.
Cool. So now inside Mumbai, what we will do is, instead of having this instance, so let's start from the very beginning. First of all, let's start by creating a VPC itself. I will create one VPC, one subnet. Inside that subnet, I will create an instance. Inside that instance, I will install MongoDB, and then I will make a connection with this machine over private IP again. Let's get started. First thing first, create a VPC. This you might not know, it's fine. The next classes you can have a look at it. By the way, new classes starts from Monday. Okay, so your VPC here, and let's create a new VPC itself. Let's remove this. I have a peering that is active. Okay.
Ankit, what is exactly subnet and peering?
Monday.
Okay.
Just see what is happening. From by Wednesday, you will understand every magical thing here. Okay, so let's go and create a VPC now. So let's call it as a public VPC, or let's call it as, let's say, backend itself, or let's say Mumbai. Okay, and 10.0.0/24, and let me go and create this one. This is fine, and create VPC. Now, if the VPC is done, I will go on and create one subnet also. How? Create subnet, which is part of my Mumbai VPC, and the subnet, let's call it as subnet 1, and this is 10.0.0/25, and let's create one more subnet. Let's call it subnet 2. This exactly on Monday you will understand that, okay, this was the magic.
Okay.
0.128, and this 2 subnets are done. Okay, now if subnets are done and my network has to connect with internet, so obviously I need internet gateway. Let's go and create one. Internet gateway 1. Once the internet gateway is created, obviously I will have to go and attach it to a VPC. This one. Now, if you're looking at any other video recording by someone else or my old recording only, this interface might look a bit different. The reason is this is the new console over here, no? New VPC. It's, you have the option to revert to the old one, but don't do that, because in future this is what you will have to do. So it's better to go with this only. One final thing, my route table, which is for my VPC Mumbai, this I will have to go and add the internet gateway also. Let's say that anyone in this world can make a connection with it for now. If this all is done, let's go back to my EC2 console and create a server inside this particular VPC and install MongoDB inside that. So for that, launch an instance. And let's choose this one. And let's say T3A small. And important thing is here, the VPC you will have to select Mumbai, and you will have to say any of this. Subnet 1, subnet 2. I'm choosing subnet 1. Here you are saying enable the public IP. Yes.
And when you select T3 small, it's not written like free.
No, it is not free. It is not free. I know. Okay. If I take this one, it is only 1 GB RAM. So half an hour will go in that processing only.
Okay.
Masood, by the way, remember this user data. Yes. If the user has to ensure that during the creation of the instance itself, there should be some commands which are running, for example, Apache web server. This was what we said. User data.
Okay. Got it.
Good. Yeah. Now review and launch, and let's choose this. And okay, one more thing. I believe I have enabled the public IP. Yes. Fair enough. Now the same old story, go and install MongoDB inside this machine also. So how to do that? Let's call it backend working. And connect SSH client, this here, copy it. Let's go back and make a connection with it. If everything is good, first always sudo apt-get update. If this is done, let's go and install MongoDB. How? Same old story again. First, done. This is done. Finally, we will start Mongo. By the way, remember, we are not doing this for installing MongoDB there. Our end goal is to ensure that this is connecting to this, again, over the private IP. This. So how do we make a connection with that machine? Where are you? This is connecting to what? 172. What is the private IP of this machine here? 172.168.5.219, right? So let's go and try that. And we will see obviously it won't be able to connect to it. The reason for that is you are inside your network of Mumbai. You are inside your network of North Virginia. Are these two networks interconnected with each other? No. This is a separate network in Mumbai. This is a separate network in North Virginia. You will somehow have to connect this network of Mumbai with this network of North Virginia. How to do that? The concept is network peering. And the final thing also that we have to do is this one. So let's go to VPC inside Mumbai. And we will have to initiate a network peering. Peering is nothing but imagine a network of Mumbai being directly connected to network in North Virginia. It can be in the same region. It can be in different region. So let's call this as, let's say Mumbai.
Peering means like connecting, right?
Exactly. That's it.
Okay.
Okay, and another region, North Virginia, I will need the VPC ID for it, isn't it? So for that, let's go and get the VPC ID of this machine. This happens to be the VPC ID. Here, this, and create a peering connection. Now, in ideal scenarios, so it is done, but yes, you will have to go inside your VPC of North Virginia, and you will have to go and allow the peering request. So it doesn't mean that I can go and send a peering request to anyone in this world and AWS will allow that. No, it will say that please confirm that you need that connection. So what it is saying to me is that, see, you do have a peering connection, incoming request from this particular person, even though both are my account only. And how can you see? Requester is also this and acceptor is also this, and my account is this only. So for that, actions and accept the request and this. Now, if this is done, one last thing, go to your route table and add the entries. So this one has to accept from where are you peering connection, and this, okay, do you remember the ID? ID is 1D6F, no? 1D6F, this one. This has to accept it from here, isn't it? And what is this address? 10.0.0.24. So North Virginia has to accept from Mumbai. Similarly, Mumbai has to accept from North Virginia, isn't it? So here, this routes, edit route, add route, go to peering connection, this, and this has to accept from 172.31.00.16 and save routes. Now, if everything is good, both the networks are connected, and let's try it out. And finally, we are able to connect from Mumbai, which is this IP 10.0.0.113. 10.0.0.113, by the way, is Mumbai. Have a look at it. Here, and let's see, EC2 here. So a complex scenario that for sure people will ask you a lot, and this is what is used in AWS a lot. So 10.0.0.113 happens to be my this instance, which is the private IP inside Mumbai. So from Mumbai, this one, I am able to connect to this one. And by the way, no one in this world can make a connection with North Virginia. This instance, no one can make a connection. The reason being, no, you don't have the public IP only. So even though you don't have the public IP, still someone from here can make a connection with this. The concepts we covered were network peering, very important. Second was EC2 instance and security. This is what we wanted to do in the end. So one last time, 172.31.5.219 is this instance here, which happens to be North Virginia. And this instance, which is my 10.0.0.113, is this instance that happens to be inside Mumbai. So from Mumbai, I am able to connect to North Virginia. Now, if it went too fast, that is fine. Once you understand more about networking, you will understand. But in real life, people will ask you about a lot of scenarios. So just tell them this story, that this is what I did completely. Okay.